stations, parks, open spaces, religious centers, construction sites around graveyards, and other public places. Whatever may be their positionality or the place where they live, they are the people who are homeless. And the people who are permanently have no permanent dwelling units. Maybe these topics of initial focus regarding the street dwellers started way back in time when HIV/AIDS was spreading. Maybe some of the researches can be traced out from African countries where initial focus was focusing upon the street dwellers and their sexual behaviors and their sex and sexuality and rehabilitation of these people in order to save them further spread of HIV/AIDS. Then other vulnerable population among which maybe a few studies and works were done even in India were children of street dwellers. A few of them were rescued, they were taken away from the street dwellers and they were sheltered. And a number of such researches and interventions were happened. And every census also focused upon homelessness, and it was well assessed as well as addressed. So is it a global issue? Globally, when we look at the researches, we see almost 1 million people live in informal settlements or in urban slums that lack basic facilities such as safe water, sanitation, and health services. A number of people who are homeless in India is almost 1.77 million based on 2011 census. So this interesting finding also come out, like into the 1991 census stood at urban housing needs stood at 5.1 million, which grew up 7.1 million in 2001 census. While there is also an observed reduction of number of people who are living in the streets have come down. I mean, it has come down. Though the number of people who are living in the streets have come down, their needs were not completely met. Something I would like to take you to some of the interesting news, interesting findings from all over the country. There were incidents of violence against women and homeless prompted the Supreme Court to make an order in 2012 that every city should have a homeless shelter for catering this population. They have put the ratio and number. However, these recommendations were not being well followed by any of the corporations or city administrations. During 2014, due to the bitter cold, over 100 homeless people died in New Delhi alone. Let's come across to the coming to Kerala scenario. What is happening? Are there any research? Kudumbashree is only research to a great extent. That is only an agency that surveyed in 2017. 93 cities they identified and made survey. And the findings are as follows. There were, out of their total survey, 82.1% of them are male and 17.6% were female. And in this survey, it is also noted that more than 3,000 people are homeless. 82% of population were male street dwellers, and 65% homeless were among 40 to 80 age category. And 60% of the homeless are migrants, which means migrant population was increasing in Kerala. 65% of street dwellers have been staying in same location for more than 1 year, but our experience differs because we have seen people who have been staying in Calicut city for city streets for more than 30 years. Ernakulam has the highest street dwellers, 510, and Idukki district of Kerala, 38, and Kozhikode, where we work today, have the highest number of street dwellers, and it is a corporation. Very often, there are a lot of Interesting facts and misconceptions regarding the street dwelling. As per the Supreme Court of India 2010, even prior to the order was made, they define homeless people comprise single men and women, women with the children, elderly people, and those who are
Hello, good evening, sir. Okay, excuse me, we'll fix it soon.
and persons with special needs and are looked down upon by vaguely dangerous and interactively on the road. These are the stigmatizing terminologies. However, there can be not much of changes. We have seen even our campus started around 30 days, 20 to 20 days of our camp was started. There were cannabis plants were traced out from behind of camp premises, and the news was projected in such a way that most of these people are criminals. So we were not able to find out too many criminals or people with lawbreakers. This is a survey conducted by us immediately after we joined in our team. The survey shows, these are a few statistics I would like to present before you. In age distribution, 60 above, around 23 percentage, 50 to 60, 26 percentage, and 30 to 40 age range, 16 percentage, and 40 to 50, 27 percentage. Sex ratio, if you come across to, out of the total population, we rehabilitated 33 were female and 726 per male. Coming across to from which city they hail from, or which state they hail from. Almost 13 states we were able to identify, and one person belonged to out of country, that is Nepal, and majority were from Kerala. Marital status, these are the figures. Interestingly, around 25% of them are unmarried and 46% were married but not living with the husband or wife. And separation rate was 3%, divorces were 6%. And employment status, we see interesting findings. 40 to 50, that is 26% of them are well employed, and 50 to 60 age range, 23%, 23.99% were employed, while unemployed rate was high among more than 60 or above. Mental health, we also made a few interesting findings. Almost 71% of them required no mental health interventions, and a basic intervention was provided to 9%, and 7% of population we had to intervene immediately after shifting them into the camp. Any physical or health issues, almost 43% were at 43% had no health issues, and 48% had some of the other health issues we had to address. History of alcohol use, almost 57.39% had history of alcohol use. And any other addictive substance, we see 10% had any other addictive substance, which might include cannabis or polysubstance or whatever maybe, and 26% did not give any information, which otherwise indicate that they were either into or not. Coming across to the quantitative findings through our interventions and as well as searches, we could find predominant health and mental health issues, which included chronic and other diseases which are often untreated. Family rejection was also one of the major concerns, and due to this, there was a very poor support mechanism, family issues, alcohol, other addictions, and personality problems, which was a major hurdle for rejoining into the family. Nicotine addiction was another major concern for us to address, and that was not easy for us to tackle immediately, and polysubstance was another important issue. Behavioral issues, maybe due to personality or maybe due to their lifestyle itself, was causing major concern to us in the camp. Let's see the vulnerability, and that was our point to vulnerability, of course, was something which we assessed, not for making them labelized, but for strengthening. These individuals faced, often researchers also say that these individuals faced distressing consequences, including acute and chronic physical health problems, exacerbation of ongoing psychiatric problems, and higher likelihood of victimization and incarceration. Exposed to the harmful practices like the substance abuse, gambling, and engaging in risk sexual habits, activities may be including in commercial sex work, which were to great extent we could not find out, though street had huge number of women commercial sex workers. Living on the street without any family support and protection was another important concern. That was their vulnerability. And street people were vulnerable to a range of sexual and reproductive health problems such as sexual violence, unwanted pregnancy, and sexually transmitted disease, STDs. We had, after we were able to screen, after the screening out, initial blood test, we were able to identify almost 3 persons with HIV/AIDS. Larger social, political, and economic facts such as lack of affordable housing, increase or decrease in number of people who remain in homeless. Let's come across to the health issues. Vulnerability in terms of the health needs and health seeking behavior. It was they had very poor health seeking behavior, mainly due to their due to the unavailability of healthcare systems in and around Calicut. Maybe also it can also be said that they were not ready to go into, or there were nobody else for them to stand as a caregiver. Rates of acute and chronic medical illness among them were very high, but they had very poor access to the healthcare system. Let us come across to what is the project and what is this project about it and how we started. Before we, of course, I made presentations of what is our finding prior to what the project was introduced to you. I'm sorry, but I just presented the statistics. Aim of this project was nothing but to prevent wandering people from getting corona infection. Street dwellers were taken from the street to residential facilities at various parts of Kozhikode district. We had initially a huge number of centers, which was in and around Calicut city, and also one periphery center out of Calicut city, that was in Vadagaram. Initiated by district administration under disaster management TMAT, with the help of NGOs and volunteers initially. And these volunteers were not professionally qualified or trained. Therefore, exactly the camp was started on 24th of March 2020, immediately after the lockdown was started. So these NGOs, they were good NGOs, or the district administration immediately made assessment of these people's needs, and they found out there is a clear-cut intervention required for these population who are resettled from their original localities and wanted psychosocial interventions. Therefore, psychosocial assessment and intervention was started on 28th March, immediately after we teamed up. We'll see the partners. Who are the partners? These were the major partners of our project. I'm not just mentioning any of these names. Let's see how our life was in the camp. You know, it was time when Corona was outbreak. Corona cases were increasing in Kerala, though not largely in number as of today. There were maybe 1 or 2 cases in each of the cities or each of the districts. However, a psychosocial team was set up on 28th of March itself. Team strength was added more into by 1st of April, and it was consisting of more than 16 people who are either trained, or who are either under the training process, but most of them were professionals. Healthcare protocol. Following the healthcare protocol was the most important task for us to immediately. We were all cautioned and we were warned by the health department, and basic training for COVID protocol was immediately done by all of us, and adequate preventions were taken even when we went for the need assessment and meeting this population who was settled inside the camp. The first priority was for us to prioritizing needs and arranging the camp, because into the camp, all the population who were gathered from different parts of the streets and different parts of Calicut, Kozhikode district was settled in uh, maybe just for example, people with serious skin diseases, people with chronic problem, people with infectious diseases were settled in one particular place as their vulnerability was unknown to them initially. Therefore, prioritizing need was an important need for us, and then we are rearranged the camp based on the initial assessment, and vulnerable population, especially with health needs, were shifted to one particular campus, and other healthy populations we were able to manage in different other camps. Initially, we had a very less number of population, but strength began to increase as days went on, because by the time almost all the hotels and residential facilities for these people were began to shut down, and the strength increased day by day. That was a major challenge for us, and we were able to accommodate all this population without any issues, because we were backed up by the DM Act and support from the district administration and collector. There were a lot of unmet needs, lot of negotiations we had to make to this population, because they were all almost locked in. We were not giving them the permission to move out, as collector has strictly warned us not to let them wander around in the street, and coordination was necessary from the government agencies, especially the district administration and various other governmental agencies. And all the camps were placed under each village or Tahsildar. Regarding our duty time, it was almost 12 hours, minimum 12 hours each of us spent in the camp. Started from morning maybe around 9:30, and we all left around 7 or 8 o'clock, and some of them stood till 12 o'clock till their major issues were addressed. And constant feedbacks were taken, evaluations or ongoing programs were done on online platforms, even after reaching home. That means some of our Zoom meetings were Zoom meetings regarding the day-to-day activities were done at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the night, so that we can plan up beautifully for the next day, come up with a lot of newer ideas and feedbacks and changes which was required. And it was beautifully teamed up. That was the beauty of this particular program, and teamed up with beautiful leadership. Interaction with the people initially was very, very difficult, as you know, COVID-19 protocol did not allow any persons closer to us, coming closer to us and speaking to us. And we had to keep social distancing, we had to keep mask, and therefore it was very difficult for us initially to interact with these people. But gradually we learned how to interact with these people, even with the use of mask and social distancing. Yeah, and then very interestingly, one of our camps had one positive case reported, who was also unfortunately mentally ill. Therefore, we had to close the entire interventions, and all of our teammates had to undergo forced withdrawal, and two of our teammates had to undergo the quarantine for 14 days. These were the immediate needs based on our assessment. Night shelter. Why is it night shelter? Night shelter was meant for those people who were working population, who wanted to have just a room for the night, family reintegration, and the students' homes, and the addiction needs were there. Psychiatric care was immediate requirement. Identity card was not available to most of the population, and health cards were needed for even those people who were working in the hotels and the other supports needs. Now let's speak about what are the major interventions we have initiated. Family reunion, that was immediate task for us because during the lockdown, very strict lockdown rules were enforced in Kerala, as you know, and therefore traveling was not possible. Moreover, we wanted to focus upon the family reunion, which was a very huge task for us. So this particular topic of reunion, for reunion alone, after identifying the whole number of population who wanted to have reunion, who were interested in reunion, or whom we identified for reunion, we started working along with them individually. We assess their needs, we assess their issues, we began to speak to them one by one, like a casework model, and followed by, we also made a protocol, was well written, modified, written in the sense it was necessary to be modified from time to time because of some issues concerning to. Initially, we thought this family reunion would be an easiest task. We could just speak to the family, therefore we can reintegrate them back to the family, but it was not at all possible. We had to speak to the family in multiple times and slowly to make them understand. Initially, when we spoke to the family, they all said, most of them said that we are not happy they are back to the family because they had created huge number of, a lot of issues prior to this, prior to them moving out of the family, and they were unwanted. They were not welcomed by the family, and these people never ever supported the family also on their ongoing process. Therefore, a few of the visits we made and we ordered in connected with and slowly intervening about family reunion process, and we were able to succeed in that. De-addiction was a major issue because, as you know, as I have shown you in the slides, there were huge number of population who had been under problems of addiction issues. So de-addiction was initiated not based on a particular center. Our center itself became a de-addiction center because that was, already it was almost alcohol availability was almost nil, while nicotine we had to supply in order to um, keep them away from creating issues or in order to tap for their craving. So psychiatric care was provided by DMSP team and government mental health hospital, or maybe even ICRA hospital, which is a private psychiatry unit. So recreational activities, both indoor and outdoor, was started as the lockdown was slowly lifting up. Indoor activities included caroms, chess, or water, ludo, or whatever may be the things which was available. Motivation interventions were also initiated from Alcohol Anonymous group. Physical exercise was mandatory for those who are able, and meditation and yoga was started. Medical and nursing care on every camp was provided by DHS, that is Directorate of Health Services, and ICRA Hospital, that was private hospital. And palliative care, that was another important area. There were a huge number of population, like more than 50 plus population who were aged more than 60. Therefore, a few of them required palliative care that was initiated through palliative care. So a few figures, we had missing cases of almost 67, hospital death around 3%. I highlighted the three in red ink, for which I would like to narrate a story. As I went in quest of a person in Beach Hospital, while inquesting the dead body, I was surprised to see in undergarment, in a plastic cover, this particular person kept more than 3,000 around 2,500 rupees as a safe deposit. These incidents helped us to think more deep into the uh, process of starting a shelter home, and we had to initiate these discussions with district administration and other agencies. And there were persons with a disability around 6%, HIV 3, leprosy 2, and COVID test taken 2, but it may be the number may be increased currently, and one was positive and other one was negative. Intervention, these are the gross figure and not just focusing upon it too much. Family integration, we were almost successful. Out of 115, 81 were almost sent back to their family and they are reintegrated. We are following up through telephonic interventions and institutionalized almost 89, psychiatric admissions 15, and job training. It's an ongoing process, of course. It is just, I mentioned 4 sessions. And under process, ration cards, ID cards, and other cards, and voter ID is under process. Health cards provided to hotel workers, and we are planning to provide tying up with private hospitals to provide health cards to them. These are the few stories reported by the media, which of course is not to highlight anything about this particular project, but as time goes, medias were interested, and some good stories. As of today, as per this particular record, we can say 138 persons were able to provide. We were able to provide 138 persons job, and currently almost 290 plus population is staying in the residential facility. Over the time, we could find there were changes in attitude from they are no more the people who came initially. And there was also reduced craving for substance. Of course, nicotine dependency, we could not target it till date. And behavioral changes were also found most of the population motivated for better future, and self-care and common hygiene was increased. Though we have made all these kind of changes, there are a lot of challenges. Finding suitable jobs, though we assess the job suitability, job issues, and availability of current job scenario, and etc. But we found there are persons who are from this population who usually used to change from job to job, not satisfied, moving out of job, not even informing. Therefore, this is a great challenge even ahead of us in today. And rigorous training is required for them from time to time in order to make them further change their life as well as change their attitude. An individual casework was started after we shifted these camps to the home. Today we are able to accommodate this population into from the camp, as usually the DM as per the disaster management protocol, not more than 3 months a camp can be run. Therefore, we shifted this population into a permanent residential facilities. And I'll talk to you about the permanent residential facility later by. And coordinated effort is required also from the administration. Unmet material needs are increasing day by day if they are not employed. Missing cases, of course, we could not trace out them back. Maybe recently again we went into the street and more than 66 persons were again taken away from the street by the district administration, are currently undergoing their quarantine phase. And addressing the geriatric issue is a major problem for us. Addressing health and mental health issues also a great challenge ahead of us. Let's speak about a mental health intervention. This was the figure that I have shown you initially, and let's see the what are the other number in connection as per the DMHP team intervention. This is a total figure, and for which alcohol withdrawal dependency almost 27% out of 700 population were treated, and psychosis around 21% were either under camp or maybe under residential facilities currently are undergoing the treatment. And totally admitted persons in rehabilitation centers are almost 15. So while intervening with the psychiatry population, there was a masked psychopathology versus masked faces. Why is it masked psychopathology? Masked psychopathology, reason being these people, at least a few of these persons who are coming to the street have masked psychopathology, which are very difficult to assess and screen out very properly. And, as usual, we assess the facial expressions and facial changes, etc., through face direct observations, which are not possible in the corona cases. We have to adopt many other strategies. Screening and assessment, it was either delayed or maybe denied. Difficult to understand psychopathology because proper history is not available. Some of them were treated not with the proper permission. We agreed to that one, but it was a persuasion. Issues of continuity is a major challenge for us, and personality issues always coupled with maybe confused for us, terming it as a psychopathology. Traumatizing life events, was it a major reason for psychopathology, or maybe it must have led to the current psychiatric issues? Lower turnout of. It's very interesting. We must also do, this is one particular point we just I mentioned in this particular slide. We initiated a discussion on applications for calling forward social workers and psychologists for working with us. Out of 80 applicants, already just 3 turned out of. That's very interesting, and uh, we have to now to see that what are the challenges of volunteerism currently faced. While moving ahead, we need to focus more on medical, psychiatric, nursing, and psychosocial care in future, ID and health card, and employment-related issues to be tackled immediately. Research and other documentations are on process, and we have not made so far an SOP for psychosocial interventions in pandemic situations and in camps, which will be definitely be taken. As I told you, Udayam is a home away from street, and from the camp we transferred entire population into Udayam. And currently Udayam is a project run under the district government for by the support of some of the NGOs. The prominent NGOs currently working is Tanan Daya Charitable Trust Vadagara. They applied for a Asim Premji fund for supporting this particular project, and we are hoping for entire funding fund mobilization. Therefore, whoever have come into this particular project recently or in past as our volunteers who were in need of job are currently placed into this particular project. Of course, not with a great salary, but at least they can be called as currently the employers of Udayam project, and they are the part and parcel of Udayam project. And currently we are able to support more than 300 population into the residential facilities, and we will be hopefully moving ahead into one particular center near Chevayur with 1 acre facilities with more than 2 crores of investment at home. This is our hope, and this is our future, going to be a permanent residential facility. So I can never say that this project is a completion process. This is an ongoing project and definitely requires plenty of future interventions as well. And we hope this will definitely be taking longer time to assess the efficacy. And so far, I have already told you, in nowhere, even in my interaction with many of the people from all over India, I could never find a very great successful model any part of India regarding the rehabilitation of this population. There are some models which are not, which are very difficult to assess its efficacy. Most of them are projected reports, and we don't want these projected reports, and we are waiting for maybe years it will take to assess the efficacy of this particular project, assess the um, total intervention, has it reached to a particular success model or whatever maybe. Anyhow, currently, as of today, we are satisfied as a social workers and happy to see that this is happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurian sir. Your presentation was very crisp and nice. I should appreciate you that for taking a lot of effort to formulate this project and running the project from the start. Now it is the time of discussion. I think Dr. Rakesh, another leader in the
Yeah,
same
I
project.
just wanted to introduce
Yeah.
Nozan. I just wanted to introduce Rakesh and me, and of course Jawad and Nadir were important co-figures who stood as the pillars for this particular project along with the team. And Udayam project has no particular personality who is behind this, and we are all were team. And that was the beauty of this particular project. I'm really surprised to see that the teamwork was immense, and we were blessed with a wonderful team. And therefore, this project does not belong to anybody. It belongs to a team.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rakesh.
I think Ragesh sir is there, and he agreed that he will contribute something while question answer session. So it's the floor is open for discussion. If somebody have some clarification, something to contribute, they can. They can use either chat box or they can unmute themselves and talk. But please be careful that after your question or after your turn, please mute your microphone for the better discussion. So please. I think there is a question from Jarisha. How many of them rejected the offer of rehabilitation and reason?
Rakesh.
That's a valid question. How many actually earlier we didn't have hold on the entire population because all the government officials means from revenue department and all involving in this endeavor, and few of them were rehabilitated by revenue department to some other centers. So some numbers actually we are not on, but most of them actually wanted rehabilitation and to enhance their quality of life, but few of them maybe not knowing the situation outside the campus, so they were actually rejecting. So we cannot say how many they have rejected. um, we don't have exact count very openly I'm saying, but I think it's not more than 20, because they were thinking that they were not considering the COVID situation. They think that, okay, somehow the district administration brought them to the campus or the camp and just not allowing them to go outside. Their freedom is restricted. That was the perception they had, very few of them. So they were not actually cooperating adequately, and they were denying the services from our side. But what happened very interestingly, when they went outside without taking services from our side, or maybe Kudian already told the absconding, and after absconding, after maybe few days, they called us back, or they came to the camp directly and requesting to continue our services. So this also a very interesting. Even today also one person came back and requested our services. Then we have to send him back to medical college or beach hospital for COVID testing, and maybe once it's negative, we can take him back. So not knowing the exact situation may be the reason for their rejection of rehabilitation services. So I hope I have answered Jarisha's question.
Thank you. Jarisha, are you there? If you want to add or elaborate your question or something to say about it, so you can. If not, can I move to next question? There is a question from Ram. I don't know his name. He has a number with him with his name. So he is asking that regarding type COVID positive mentally ill person, how was it managed? Were admitted? Please elaborate.
Yeah, person with the COVID-19 who were diagnosed to have COVID-19, who was in our camp, he was already he was already mentally ill, and it was intervened by the Dr. Rakesh. Unfortunately, he had to go on quarantine. Um, he was taken to medical college immediately after. He was taken to medical college for mental health treatment, but tested positive. Mm, yeah, later rest of the management was done by the medical team, and once he was back to our team, back into our camp, we were able to provide the rest. Is that so, Ragesh?
Yeah, few of them were needed inpatient care. They were taken to predominantly government mental health center Kozhikode, and very few of them were taken to
Private center.
medical college psychiatry department. But most of them were treated outpatient within this campus itself.
Correct. That is the beauty of that particular. This is interesting.
Yeah.
Majority could be treated in our setting itself, and few of them are treated in private center. However, treatment efficacy was good, and currently they are managing with medications or our interventions.
And I would like to add one more thing, that we could see abrupt psychosis. Among many inmates had abrupt psychosis. And maybe yesterday I was discussing with Professor of Psychiatry that the maybe one reason is that they are institutionalized after a long time wandering in the streets, or maybe because of other reasons they were in the streets. But when they were taken to the institute or the campus, so they had many of them had abrupt psychosis. Maybe they had past history of psychosis or psychiatric illness that we were not aware of. But the interesting thing that most of them had abrupt psychosis than the chronic psychosis, and they were actually treated with low dose of antipsychotics or psychiatric psychotropics, and they were actually managed very well with that medications itself.
Thank you. There is another question which is related to this question from Kripanjali Sharma. How can mental health being affected due to COVID-19 and its circumstances? The question is not specific. I hope that this is about the mental health of people, people in the camp. Do you want to say something? I think that this question is already answered in the presentation itself. Though, if you want to add something, you can.
Yeah, maybe initially when they were locked into their particular residential facilities, as you know, they were all free birds. They were able to meet their needs, whatever that comes in front of them, whatever they could do whenever they wanted to. Just for example, a cup of tea, maybe maybe a drink, maybe a puff of cigarette, whatever maybe that was available to them immediately whenever it was necessary. But after coming into the residential facilities, as you know, there are a lot of restrictions, and it was not easy. But however, you must remember that was a necessity. You must also to remember one particular point, that this particular initiation to make Calicut city free from street dwellers, this programs and projects were started long back. This is not something new. We never claim this is new, okay? And this project and programs were started way back in 2000 to 2020. So almost 20 years it took time. The COVID had to come for these people's rehabilitation. And even after this collector had come, he was able to rehabilitate, relocate this population into a particular residential facilities, but they never stood there. And so the mental health, of course, as Ragesh was telling, as they were into the institutionalization, their mental health was ups and downs, and gradually they began to cope up with the situations. And today, even today, I say, for friend, we are able to see a few of the population, maybe one or two in one particular residential facility, who have muttering behavior, or maybe they have issues with the psychiatric problems whatsoever, maybe maybe they were not treated prior to it. Into COVID specific, we cannot exactly say in camp what exactly is happening. Is it due to COVID specific? Because we don't have any sort of a data to specifically to say due to COVID this has happened. Yeah.
Thank you. There is another question which is regarding um, so there is a question from Georgie Anthony. So could you please share with us details about psychosocial team, Ricard?
Psychosocial team.
Team, yeah.
Psychosocial team consists of mostly qualified psychosocial professional team, either PG in psychology or PG in social work. Some of them are on the verge of completing, and some of them completed the course, and currently almost all of them are qualified social workers or psychology PG completed graduates.
I would like to tell that also we had mental health professionals, qualified
Exactly.
mental health professionals, clinical and
Clinical psychologist. Clinical psychologist.
Yeah. So
Team was full almost.
Okay. There is no question. There is no more question in chat box. If somebody from the audience have something to ask and contribute, yeah, there is one more question here. Here, many of them have their own home, but still, she is Grace Varshida from Andhra Pradesh. She's telling here many of them have their own home, but still be on the street. Those who agreed for the rehabilitation, they will quit after a few days. How can we manage such situations?
We are not worried about how many people are leaving the home or how many people are adding into the home. We are just worried about how many people are willing for the rehabilitation. And moreover, if we never want anybody to stay back in these residential facilities, and we want everybody to stay back in their own, reintegrated back to their home facilities. That's what we are looking for. Those who are not ready for initial reintegration are now currently willing for reintegration, and we will be working with that definitely, and hope for the best. And as you know, rehabilitation is all about a trial and error, and once there is any sort of issues that is going to happen, we will definitely be able to come up with newer ideas in rectifying things. That's what is teamwork is, right?
Thank you, Kurian. There is another question from Jadisha.
Yeah.
Asking how it is not a detention camp center. I'm asking this question by looking at person's autonomy and freedom. Lots of legal aspects to address, I believe.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Jarisha. Thank you so much raising up this particular question. You know, it is not detention center or camp. As we moved, initially camp, maybe it looked like a detention center because of COVID perspective or a DM Act. While we moved into a new center, that is into a new home, every person who required residential facilities, who wanted to have, who were healthy and who were willing to undergo a written, signed document. I mean, they were well informed about what are the conditions of their home, how to manage the home. It is their home actually. I mean, it is there are management committees by themselves, and entire management of the home is run by them, along with the support of the social workers and professionals. And you know, currently it doesn't look like a detention center. It is their home, and home they are managing beautifully. They are managing beautifully. we don't know what is going to happen in future. We are optimistic. And legally, nobody is all the doors are open, but in COVID perspective, few other persons, we had to counsel them. We had to time intervene them. We had to time to time negotiate with them to stay back into the center, whom we found do not have a particular residential facilities or home to go back, or family to reintegrate back. For their safety, we didn't compel, but we talked to them, negotiated them, and rolled with the resistance. Yeah, that's how we were able to be into this current situation.
Thank you. There is another question from Dr. Jayachandran Trivandrum. He is saying that you mentioned about yoga meditation. Can you give more details and how was it done?
Yoga and meditation we could not continue for a long time, as you know, COVID. We were, as I told you, also mentioned about our entire team. We had to withdraw it immediately after two of us were forced to go for quarantine. Um, they both these programs, yoga as well as meditations, were initiated by well-trained and qualified, prominent persons of Calicut city. Um, Details I can definitely look into that one. It was not initiated by me. It was started by, it was, it was initiated by our clinical psychologist during the time when we all went to, it's a kind of a withdrawal, I can say. A large number of population also attended it, and it was supported also by the district police commission, district police department as well. So it was basic actually. Efficacy, to a great extent, they were able to focus on their life and become stress-free, because already alcohol withdrawal issues were all started, and moreover nicotine dependency, that was a major concern to them. Yeah, any other details I can share it possibly.
Thank you. There is another question that are you planning to implement to other districts? This is from Jaismon Anjani.
Let's make this particular project a model with at least some good success, and let's then move into a grand and larger way ahead. We are not sure of what is its efficacy, because its project is in reality, project has just started. Though it may be around more than 3 months that we have been working along with them. However, this is just a beginning process. We need to have long.
So you are not audible. Rakesh sir, are you there?
Yeah, maybe I can help, or I'll continue whatever Kurian stopped. This
Yes.
is actually replicable in any other districts, provided the district administration and all other team members should be in supportive. And we know that in almost all the parts of the country we have street dwellers, so it should be this kind of project, and project should be running in all parts of India. So it is replicable, but we are not planning any continuing or extending the service to any other district so far. But the concerned district administration can do, maybe they can come and learn from our side if they think that we have done a good job. So, and we are trying to make it as the best services possible ways. So it is replicable.
Okay, thank you. Jarisha is asking again, can you please tell me about the
Documentation
documentation
process.
process?
Apps being this one.
Just give us a summary.
Yeah, documentation process was started as soon as we started the intervention. Documentation was not done by the intervening team. That was done by a national team. We had two groups actually, one in the field, other one invisible team. So we call them visible and invisible team. An invisible team documented the entire documentation process, and still they are on complete process. We hope to come out with the beautiful, maybe a complete comprehensive report. That's what we are thinking. And we are just settled into the homes, and we need to have some time to work upon this particular. And tentative management is still a problem for us. And once everything is settled, we will parallel is going on, and definitely there are few things which are documented and still requires future documentations as well. And it is an undergoing process. Thank you, Cherry.
Thank you. And one more question is from Yadu. He is a student of us. How social work or psychiatric social work skills and knowledge help you and your team to move on with this project? Please give the importance of social work in this COVID-19 circumstances.
Yadu, thank you so much for raising up this particular topic. And as a social worker, as a whatsoever the social work practice you are doing, and almost every principles of social work is being applied into this particular project. If not, we had specialized people from medical and psychiatry alone, mental health professionals, and community social workers as well. And everybody's contribution into this particular project was important. Group work, maybe community work, community organization, whatsoever the principle that you see, it was necessary to implement this particular project from time to time. This project also, you should remember, at certain point of time we were thinking this project is no more being under our control, I mean under our into our hand. And that's why Rakesh was mentioning few of the persons whereabouts, I mean they're shifting and etc, were not into our hands. When we got complete control, we had almost only 600 plus population, while in initial entire population was almost more than 760 or something like that. While we went to quarantine or something, like when we withdrew our services due to COVID fear, these interventions were taken up by the revenue department, and therefore a few things were not able to document it properly. And as you know, without application of social work skills and skills, almost whatsoever the skills that is mentioned in the textbook, we had applied into this, and not want to mention, not want to. Please come down, and we can just make a watch over when you get time. You are nearby. You are in Wayanad, I know.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think that the questions are over. There are so many comments related to your presentation and the teamwork. All good, positive comments. And thank you, like Gurian sir, for presenting and discussing this project and concerns very well. I would like to thank you and the team of the Udayam project for working there and making social work more meaningful. Yeah. So I would like to call, if there is no other question and concern, if someone want to add or question something, then we can wait for 2 minutes more, then we'll wind up. If there is anything. No, I think there is nothing more. So I would like to call Anjali, the third semester student of WM Arts and Science College Department of Social Work to deliver a vote of thanks.
Okay. Uh, on the behalf of Social Work Department, WMO College, Wayanad, Kerala, I take this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks to those who have directly and indirectly contributed to this webinar on comprehensive rehabilitation of homeless street dwellers during COVID-19. At the outset, I thank our chief guest and resource person, Dr. Kurian Chose. We are really enlightened with your knowledge and presence, sir. The section was really informative and educating one. Thank you, sir. And thank you, the Assistant Professor of Enhanced Ragesh, sir. And we are thankful to our head, Mrs. Nujahan K, for planning and initiating this webinar series for us. And I would like to thank Assistant Professors, Mr. Shuhay Mohammed, Mr. Rashid, Mr. Bijoy Kirakas, and Mr. Abdul Lisa for their support and cooperation. And a special thanks to the organization committee and other students. Our heartfelt thanks to all participants. So you can collect the link for certification and feedback from the chat box. Thank you for joining us. Be safe and have a nice day. Thank you all.